Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Mildred. Right, Mildred? Yes, there we are. And today we're talking about the reference recording for the Saint-Saëns Piano Concerto number 2. Now, before we get started, some people have, said, well, you really should learn how to pronounce Saint-Saëns. You pronounce the S. I didn't pronounce the S. God forbid I didn't pronounce the S. You know what? I don't give a damn. I never pronounced the S. I'm not going to pronounce the S. So get used to it. Thank you very much. And remember, if you correct my pronunciation, you will be banned forever from this channel, much as it pains me. I'm so sorry. Right? And you agree with that, don't you? Yes, she does. I have support here. But seriously, we all know that in French, you don't pronounce the last 3 or 4 consonants on any word. And so I figured, why not do it this way? Actually, when I was studying French, my French teacher, Madame Katz, who was just a marvelous French teacher, actually, I may be disgracing her memory, but she was a marvelous French teacher, sent home a comment to my mother, which went as follows. David is an excellent student of French, but he has to learn that one does not create a French word by taking the English word and adding an E to it. So there you go. I always had my own quirky way of learning foreign languages. We're talking about Saint-Saëns, Piano Concerto number 2, right? Yeah. And oh my goodness, what a wonderful concerto this is. It's really... there have been like batches of Saint-Saëns complete piano concerto cycles done recently in like the digital era, really like 5 or 6 of them because it's like, I guess, cheap to do, or there hadn't been that many of them for a while. And so all of a sudden they started hatching all over the place. And they are wonderful pieces. 5 marvelous concertos. They're beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And 2 is the most popular. After that came 4, kind of, which is a very interesting, curious hybrid of counterpoint and music hall music. And then there's the Egyptian, number 5, which is, I think, is just fabulous. And 3, which has the most beautiful opening in the world. And even number 1, which he wrote when he was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 or something, he was a little kid, is splendid. I mean, it's brilliant and fun to listen to. It's just good music. And number 2 is so effectively structured and different from any other concerto in the repertoire. It has this sort of preludial thing for a first movement with a big piano cadenza at the beginning. And then you've got a scherzo and then a fast finale. It's almost all quick music. The slow bits are concentrated toward the beginning, which means it just gets more and more exciting as it goes, especially the finale, which is like a tarantella. It's just wonderful. And it seems to be getting very little love these days, outside of complete sets made for recordings. I don't understand why, because it's a crowd-pleasing, effective, expressive, glittering virtuoso masterpiece. It really is. And go figure. Every pianist used to do it. I mean, if they were serious. If they were serious and not German, let's put it that way. I guess Wilhelm Kempff never did the Saint-Saëns Second Piano Concerto, but he should have. He should have. It was just snobbery that all those hoity-toity German pianists who are hammering away at Brahms and people like that don't get around to doing the Saint-Saëns Second Concerto. They are missing a big, big part of what makes being a pianist a wonderful thing. So all the famous great pianists in years past did this work. And of all the recordings of it, there is a clear reference choice, and it is, yes, Arthur Rubinstein. Arthur Rubinstein with the Symphony of the Air under Alfred Wallenstein from 1958 or thereabouts. Yeah, I think it's around there. 56, 58 is what this thing says on the back. Oh, what a wonderful piece. What a wonderful performance this is. Rubinstein was such an elegant, tasteful, urbane, humane pianist. And really, he was the Heifetz of the piano. I mean, there was Horowitz, of course, but Horowitz was kind of eccentric and weird, and people looked at him as like the sort of mad genius type before Glenn Gould. You know what I mean? And so when Horowitz did something, it was a big deal, but it was seldom a reference. Rubinstein was the reference guy. He was the guy who just sort of embodied European culture at its high level best. And his recordings were viewed that way. I mean, they were aristocratic. They were polished. They were not always note perfect, but it didn't matter because even those touches of fallibility only added to their charm. I mean, he really was the guy that we all went to. When Rubinstein made a recording, that was the reference as often as not, even if it wasn't your favorite, even if it wasn't the greatest ever, and even if there were other pianists who may have specialized in certain repertoire, more effectively. It's hard to exaggerate just what a dominating figure he was in the 1950s and 60s in the world of pianism. And this is one of the reasons, because he could take a piece like the Saint-Saëns Second Piano Concerto, which some people regarded as, well, maybe slightly shallow or a little bit trashy, and just make it sound like the greatest music in the world and make you happy to listen to it. I mean, the key to this performance, to the aesthetic, and it's something that I listen to, and if you've watched my videos on other recordings of this piece, you will always find that one moment in the scherzo, right? Because it's all about scales. You have to have the right lightness and insouciance, they would say, French, if you pronounce it French-like, and that kind of thing. But then you get to the trio section, which is now, that was a terrible exaggeration what I just did. And that's what a lot of players do. They either keep it strictly in tempo, which means it has no swagger whatsoever. They're just going it's horrible. Or they do something elephantine and vulgar. I mean, it sounds like moronic. It can. So the key is to give it that rhythmic lift with just a slightly held back tempo for the purposes of accentuating the rhythm and then swinging the tune, singing it out there. Well, Rubinstein gets it right. Let me just put it that way. He just sounds perfect in that music. He has the style in his bones. And it's so marvelous to hear. It really is. So I can't think of another version of this by anybody else that could even remotely be considered a reference recording. Now, there are other fine performances of it. There always were, especially from French pianists. I mean, because they all did it. There was the Daré complete cycle, which is just marvelous, and lots of other people playing the music. But for a reference, as I've said before, you need to have the marketing and the person and the label and the performance all neatly tied up in one perfect little bow and presented to you as a package. And Rubinstein's is the package for the Saint-Saëns Piano Concerto No. 2. Right, Mildred? You got it? Right? You know that, right? Yes, of course. She's taking her morning siesta, but that's okay. Oh, yeah, you like that, don't you? I know you do. Okay, that's it. Go listen to Rubinstein. People don't mention him that much anymore these days, which is really kind of amazing because he was the thing back in the day, and quite a few of his recordings still are. Take care.